Well, a grim milestone reached in the war in Israel today as Israeli airstrikes across the Gaza Strip killed 26, pushing the total number of Palestinians killed in the conflict to more than 50,000. Now, that is according to the Gazan Health Ministry. The rising death toll in Gaza is expected to be one of the subjects of high-level talks between U.S. and Israeli officials as they meet at the White House this week for strategic talks about Iran. This as Iran is backing terror throughout the region, including Hamas in Gaza, Houthis in Yemen, but the biggest source of concern lies with their nuclear ambitions. President Trump giving Iran's supreme leader a 60-day deadline for a new nuclear deal earlier this month. Israel and the U.S. are wrestling with possible military action if Iran turns down Trump's proposal. Joining us now is Executive Director of UN Watch, Hillel Neuer. Great to have you. Thank you for making the time.
Thank you for having me.
So Iran will not get a nuclear bomb under the Trump administration. We have heard this from the president, from his Secretary of Defense as well. The big question here, will Iran agree to a deal before President Trump's deadline? What are your thoughts?
Look, the first thing to understand when dealing with the Islamic Republic of Iran, the Ayatollahs, is that this is a regime that does not negotiate to make peace. Iran negotiates to buy time. And, we learned from experience with this regime that no deal is better than a bad deal. We need a deal that ends Iran's nuclear threat, not just delays it.
And I want to talk about some of the ramifications of that. Some experts have said, though, first that Iran believes a nuclear weapon would guarantee the preservation of the regime. With the stakes that high, what do you think they might be willing to do in order to protect this nuclear mission?
Look, I think you're right. I think the Islamic regime in Iran sees the nuclear threat as essential to their regime. They also see the subjugation of women as essential to their regime. And the West needs to understand that this is a threat not only to Israel and other countries in the region, which are already been in various levels of war with Iran over the past several years, Iran or its proxies. Saudi Arabia and other countries in the Gulf were at war with the Iranian-backed Houthis. The Syrian people were at war with the Iranian-backed regime of Assad and Hezbollah. Thank God that they were removed. And I think the international community needs to understand that maximum pressure worked. Sanctions worked. Weakening them only gave the regime oxygen, gave them more money to fund wars by Hamas and Hezbollah. The only language that Tehran understands is pressure, maximum pressure, whether it's economic, diplomatic, or strategic. And this regime, if they're empowered, they will continue to repress their own people, to beat, blind, and poison women who demand their rights, and they'll continue to threaten human rights activists in America. Let's keep in mind, I was just at a trial in federal court in New York a few days ago. The federal court convicted 2 assassins sent by Tehran to kill one of the leading women's rights activists at her home in Brooklyn. They were standing outside her home with an AK-47 submachine gun, fully loaded, ready to kill her, and a jury convicted them. Tehran sent them. So we need to understand who this regime is, and we need to stand up to them.
Yeah, who we're dealing with here. I want to talk ramifications for a moment. The administration essentially saying they want to do this the nice way, through a deal. However, the president has threatened military action if Iran doesn't agree to one. If we do get there, in your estimation, and it looks like we might, what will the response look like, do you believe, from the U.S.?
Look, it's difficult to tell from President Trump. At times, he makes very powerful threats to Iran and its proxies. The United States has already begun to bomb the Houthis, who have ruined international shipping. They've threatened the international community for the past year and a half and blocked key shipping route for the world. The United States administration, President Trump, made very clear that he regards Iran is responsible for them and made very powerful threats. And we need to see if he will live up to them, because the Iranians have shown that they're going to test him. They're going to test President Trump. They did so in his first administration when they bombed oil facilities in Saudi Arabia. According to reports, America was ready to send jets to punish Iran. In the end, they canceled it. So we have to see if President Trump lives up to his strong talk. If so, he will deter this regime. If not, they're going to run roughshod. And I would say it's the same with Putin. Both of these dictatorships are pushing, and if the West doesn't push back, they're just going to overrun us.
And we have seen, the president on social media saying that Hey, Iran, let the Houthis fight this themselves. They're going to be annihilated. How do you believe Iran is digesting this and some of the military action as well?
Well, I think they're seeing for the first time in over a year and a half that someone from the West is pushing back. Keep in mind that they were bombing, Western shippings. They're sending attacks on Israel. I'm speaking to you now from Jerusalem, where the Houthis nearly every day fire a ballistic missile at Israelis, sending millions into bomb shelters. And the international community so far has allowed it. The Trump administration, we have to give them credit for a few things they did right. They declared the Houthis are a terrorist organization recently. That was not the case before. They decided they're going to fight back. And why should a ragtag group of terrorists who declare it's their motto, death to Israel, death to the Jews, death to America, and they're sitting there on the Red Sea, blocking international shipping from the Red Sea, from a key route from international commerce and trade. It's a violation of international law. And the United States did the right thing to push back, and they need to hold strong.
All right. Hillel Neuer, always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.